audience, welcome to the 35th episode of the Online Tennis Podcast. It's myself, Jack Edward, and my co-host, as always,
Gavin, back again.
Yes, how you doing, Gav?
Very good, thanks, very good.
Gav's adorned in a really nice suit and tie. Well, suit and tie, a shirt and tie even.
Got to make the effort for the podcast,
Of course,
35th episode, it's a milestone, isn't it? 35.
Yeah, it's same age as Nadal, I guess,
Exactly.
Yeah,
so you got to make the effort for these things. That's totally why I'm wearing this now, but yeah.
Same age as Marin, maybe, or maybe he's a bit younger.
Probably the amount of Grand Slams Marin should have won in his career.
That makes sense. Milestone 35. Today we are going to cover everything that happened in Indian Wells, and at least everything that's worth talking about, I guess. We got some big upsets, Monfils, Brooksby. We got stuff about the defending champs on both sides, Cam Norrie and Paula Badosa. A bit of the drama that went on, Nadal Kyrgios. Match of the tournament, probably Nadal Alcaraz, and on the women's side, maybe Swiatek Halep. But we'll talk about the semis and the final at least. Plenty to get through. Let's just dive in and you guys can catch up. Okay, we can start on the men's side, Gav?
Yeah, why not? Let's go for it. I
wanted to start with a few of the upsets, so I wanted to very briefly go over Medvedev and Monfils.
Yeah, what a match that was. Incredible.
This first things first, 124 mile an hour forehand. Does it deserve the hype, Gav? Or?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Do you think I'm team doesn't deserve the hype? Because it was like almost a smash.
Nah, he's got to give that. He's got to get the hype for that. Just Monfils, isn't it? I mean, 124 in the end, because I think actually sort of like he said no one's done that before, and 2 minutes later he goes, James Blake hit 120 mile an hour return. It's like one or the other, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but maybe nobody's went over 124. I've never seen that before. Even Delpo in his heyday.
I think that was just Monfils feeling the moment, really. I mean, incredible match. Medvedev, though, I mean, I know we'll get into the nuances of it in a minute, but disappointing sort of trend from him, isn't it? Like when he's sort of down or when he's like a final set times, that you just sort of, he's so, what's the word? It's like erratic, isn't it? It's just mentally almost like switches off at times. I don't know how you'd explain it really, but.
Well, my theory might be Indian Wells, and it's not something. There is a pattern in there. His first serve percentage does go down a lot at Indian Wells. Could be due to a bit of the altitude, a bit of the wind, whatever it is. Medvedev certainly, against Dimitrov last year, that was a capitulation, unmatched by anybody the whole year. But this year it was a little bit more subtle, and there was just a few service games that Monfils got into that he wouldn't have otherwise been into on maybe a quicker court, on less erratic conditions. I think we can give Monfils a lot of the plaudits here in general as well, Gav, because had Medvedev had that serving advantage, I could have seen him through for sure, just in that alone. But from the baseline, I mean, Monfils was basically splitting the rewards, and doing that against Medvedev is so. He
was disciplined, wasn't he? Very disciplined, which is something we've not really associated Monfils with in the past. Sometimes his shot selection has been very ropey in the big moments, but no, he was really disciplined and deserved to win. I think he was excellent. Probably one of the best matches I've seen him play, actually.
Because some of the flattened out shots were incredible. He's one of the few guys that can really flatten out and actually hit through Medvedev. So there's very few players that can do that, obviously. One of the really interesting parts of the tactics involved in the match that I covered on the blog, Monfils' serving wasn't immensely fast. A lot of the time he would go about 100 miles an hour on his first serve, and then follow that up with 130 miles an hour, then follow that up with an underarm serve.
Change his pace.
Yeah, exactly. And it's something that's really important. You can't just keep trying to hit through Medvedev, because he eats up fast serves if you just keep giving them.
The pace, can't he? He can use the pace really well and just sort of redirect the ball. He's so good at changing direction with his ground strokes. So you're right.
And obviously he's got more time than anybody else to take on a fast serve. So it was really smart, and it's something that a few players do. And one other advantage to changing up the pace of your serve, he was putting more first serves in the court, so he didn't have to rely on that second serve as much.
Higher first serve percentage, for sure.
Yeah. Monfils has got one of the bigger second serves on tour, to be fair, so he still was able to cover that a little bit better than other players. Obviously, if you keep hitting second serves against Medvedev, that's when he starts to get a bit more comfortable. That's when he starts to take on a few more of the returns, and that's when you see a few more of the service games sort of getting out of your hands when they shouldn't have been getting out of your hands. So really, really smart match for Monfils. Like, honestly, one of the smartest matches I've seen him play. Really good.
Yeah, I think it just sort of relays that new attitude he's got, doesn't it? I mean, you've seen him on social media and Twitter and stuff. this year sort of like almost speak directly to the fans, about his game. I quite like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Yeah.
like sort of not a more mature side, maybe, but maybe a more like sort of focused side. I'd say focused.
Certainly more, his cards on the table. He's like, I
Mm.
want to win a big tournament.
I hope he
So
does. I mean, it'd be great to see, but whether
yeah,
he will, uh,
obviously he's
I
been
doubt.
accused in the past of not having the attitudes to win big tournaments in it, but it looks like
Yeah,
he's
I mean, we saw that match. Was it Montpellier immediately after the Australian Open? We just had an absolute shocker against
yeah.
Nima, and everyone was giving him pelters. It's like, well, the guy's just played an incredible Australian Open. You can't expect him to consistently perform at that level just immediately after Australia. He probably shouldn't have played that event, but
Yeah,
good signs. Good signs.
definitely good things. The other one I wanted to talk about was Brooksby Tsitsipas.
Yeah, predictions. Well, did you predict Brooksby to win, or
I did, yeah.
you did?
I
Yeah,
did.
yeah, good.
Yeah. I was quite happy with
Most got
that
that right.
prediction.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't always talk about the ones I get right because there's
Mm,
probably an even amount that I get wrong. But I did call that one.
mm.
It was a very interesting match. Again, Tsitsipas after the win. Not a very explosive player, he said about Brooksby. He said he's able to get balls back, not the most athletic player, just able to read the game well, play with his pace, play with his
Oh
opponent's
no, like
pace.
for me, Tsitsipas, it's not unlikable, but he's becoming sort of maybe a wee bit irritating. With some of the stuff he's coming out with. Like, give the guy credit. Okay, you're annoyed after a loss, but don't have to. I don't know. He just felt he was making like subtle digs at him. He didn't really need to do that.
Explicit digs. I mean, it's like,
He looked
surely.
miserable. Okay, he did look miserable, but I understand that he's not happy at losing. But equally, I don't know. It's just like silly to say that. He doesn't need to say that. He could just say he played better, move
Yeah.
on. But he's giving himself more, hassle there.
It's I don't think it's a very fair summary of Brooksby's game because actually
Mm.
he has got quite a lot of power from the back of the court. Certainly his forehand, I think, is a bit of a weapon. He can flatten
Yeah,
it out,
and
and
develop that further in his
yeah,
career as well.
definitely a lot of the patterns of play were sort of going backhand cross court.
Hmm.
Brooksby's backhand's just not ever gonna miss, and
Mm.
if Tsitsipas tried to go line and didn't do it properly, Brooksby was able to attack Tsitsipas's forehand with
Yeah,
his own cross court forehand. I mean, he
mhm.
deserves a bit of praise for that.
He does 100%. I've given him praise. I love the guy. I think he's great to watch, and
Mhm.
I think he's got such a great, what's it, like a toolbox that he's got. He just can vary it up at different junctures in a match. Tactically,
Yeah.
that's going to be a real benefit going forward.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if Tsitsipas had gotten comfortable with that backhand cross-court exchange, I
Mm.
definitely wouldn't have been surprised if Brooksby had thrown in some other sort of
Yeah, the
crazy.
drop shots or whatever, just to
Yeah,
keep him on
exactly.
his
Yeah.
toes.
He's a very exciting player.
Yes.
I'm still not 100% sold on the whole like fist pumping and riling up your opponent sort of aspect of
But
him, but
don't mind that. Don't mind that.
I don't really mind it just in terms of entertainment of the match. But
Mm.
maybe I don't know. Maybe it's a slight in his character. I don't know. I'll
Maybe it's just
probably
for his home
buy into
fans
it.
or the American crowd. Maybe he's doing it more to get the support. But
Yeah.
would he
Yeah,
do
I
it at
suppose
like,
he
I
seems to
don't know.
play in America a lot. I guess maybe
Yeah, would
that's
he do
it.
it at like the Pune ATP 250?
Yeah,
Sure. Like, no offense
exactly.
to that, but
Poor Joe Souza. Exactly. Leave him alone. Yeah,
yeah.
quite interesting. Right, we'll move on to the defending champ, Cam Norrie.
Mm-hmm.
Just first things first. I'm not going to write him down, but just remembered he talked a little bit about the sort of disrespect he got from the tournament. I
He
don't know.
did get disrespect. It was Stan Wawrinka level disrespect. I don't know if you know that, but after Wawrinka won the Australian Open in 2014, he didn't appear on Broadleaf Arena until the semi-finals that next
What?
year, 2015.
Jesus,
Yeah,
that's bad.
yeah, that's bad. Yeah, exactly. And also Djokovic was it Wimbledon 2018, the year he won it? He was
Uh-huh.
court two against Horacio Zeballos for his third round match, I think. Court two.
Yeah. Mhm.
So yeah, Cam's right to call it out. I mean, was it Stadium 5 for his first match? He played in the tour finals and everything. He's a top caliber, established top caliber player. Disappointing in his treatment.
He just said, yeah, it is what it is, I guess, but still a shame.
Mm,
Obviously, Cam had that rematch against Basilashvili in the third
he
round.
did.
I didn't actually see much of it, but the scoreline was pretty much identical to the final last year, very
Mm.
surprisingly. So, yeah, very interesting match against Brooksby, though. Don't know how much of that you saw, but
Saw a wee bit of it.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was really interesting to see the same sort of rally dynamics not work at all against lefty spinny forehand that Cam has. That backhand of Brooksby certainly a lot more under pressure than it was against Tsitsipas.
Yep.
any sort of short, sort of junky balls that he would hit against Tsitsipas didn't really have as much effect against Cam's forehand in particular. Obviously, one of the spinniest on tour. He can just, if he's drawn off court, he can hit it down the line really easily compared to other
Yeah,
players.
he's got such a high percentage, tennis, IQ that he's able to make those shots. But I think Cam underappreciated that forehand. Everyone talks about no power, no power, no power, whatever. But he's able to put the ball in really difficult positions, isn't he?
It's
That's the
exactly
point. It's a consistent shot. He's not going to break down. He's not going to beat himself. And that's a real asset to have, I think.
Yeah, and I found Brooksby had a lot of trouble finding Cam's backhand, and even when he did find Cam's backhand, he was kind of struggling to keep attacking it because it is so flat, and certainly Brooksby's forehand is pretty flat as well. Cam doesn't really attack. He does attack every so often with his backhand, a few returns in that, but he was more comfortable taking on difficult low balls than Brooksby was, and I think that's just maybe experience, basically. But he was the better player by far, and it was like 2 and 4, whatever it was, 4 and 2,
whatever.
Yeah. So he was by far the better player, and just really interesting to see Brooksby unable to do much against him or find a solution against him. He was trying to find solutions, and that's the point. That's what I keep trying to say. Like,
showing intent.
He's such a strategist, and it's going to be very, very. I'll learn stuff watching him. Is what I mean. Like,
a lot of players in the top 20 can take a leaf out of his book. You know what I mean, and be more tactically aware. So
exactly, yeah. You don't just want to give your opponent one dimension all the time.
He's a podcast favourite.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Next match for Cam, the one that he got knocked out in, was his match against Carlos Alcaraz. Of course, we'll talk a bit more about Carlos Alcaraz in a second. Cam actually, he made it quite difficult. I thought he had that double break point in the first set. Couldn't
he was getting
return
the ball quite high in the Alcaraz forehand, wasn't he? For the testament to him, when you go into that match, I was sort of worried for Cam that he'd be totally blown off the court by Alcaraz's power, but it just shows you that that forehand he's got can be a real asset against the players with bigger firepower. If he can get the ball in a difficult position, high up, on a forehand or backhand side, it's going to be very difficult for them to consistently hit winners or whatever in that position in the back of the court.
Yeah, definitely. I think it just took some moments of excellence for Alcaraz to make the difference. Like, there was a break point in the second set, insane defense from Alcaraz, plus a massive backhand, plus a drop shot finish. Basically, all of Alcaraz's amazing strengths all put into one point to win a really important point against Cam. He had to find a really high level for him to actually come through at times. And Cam, again, testament to him, made it really tricky for Alcaraz to find a way through.
Yeah.
Definitely. Interesting in general. This match was quite a good example of it. See Alcaraz's backhand the better of his two return wings, in my opinion. It's it's more solid.
More solid, isn't it? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Very good at taking it on, something that him and Cam as well and Alcaraz are able to excel at in comparison to their peers.
Yeah. Times you can shorten that backswing in the return, which is quite good.
Yeah. I suppose, if you need a bit of a bigger take back, certainly on the forehand, it can be a bit more easily rushed. Alcaraz, is very good on both sides, but
he is.
Definitely just a little bit more solid on that backhand side. So very interesting stuff. We'll talk about one of the other matches of the tournament. Nadal Kyrgios.
Oh yeah, drama filled. Appropriate. Ben Stiller was there and getting involved in it as well. Random, wasn't it? We're just like.
I know, yeah. Why did he get? I don't think he even said anything. He didn't say anything like.
No, he must have some good connections. He was like front row every match. Ben Stiller.
It's Ben Stiller, isn't it? Of course. The Indian Wells coverage absolutely milked it, but
Bet was loving it. Yeah, it was quite funny.
He was basically out gathering more than the players.
He was. Every change of ends, it's like Ben Stiller. Like.
But what did Kyrgios say to him? I think he said
I
something
don't teach him how to act. Like, a fan was telling him what to do or heckling him. He goes, I don't teach him how to act. And I think Ben Stiller was just sort of didn't know how to react.
The actual match, though, fantastic drama, some extremely exciting points. Kyrgios always able to trouble Nadal, how easily he's able to spread the court. He doesn't ever really settle into a direction in his forehand or backhand. Very rarely settles into one direction or the other. Can go line with his huge forehand very easily. Can find the Nadal backhand where others perhaps can't. I would say maybe that's one of the reasons that he troubles Nadal so well from the back of the court.
Another thing I would say is he doesn't give Nadal the respect of other players. You saw like Border tighten up against Rafa at times. You've seen players when they play Nadal, they can almost be intimidated, but he's not. That's not a factor with Kyrgios. He's willing to take him on, which I think is interesting to watch because not many players are like that. Even the top 10 players can get tight. Like you see Berrettini maybe getting a wee bit nervous against Nadal, but Kyrgios is just, I mean, he doesn't get affected by nerves really.
Yeah, definitely. I would say this was probably Kyrgios' match to win, to be honest. So
he blew the first set in the big moment.
Yeah, Seth, he said after the match that he kept, and I did hear him say it, but I didn't know what he was talking about. He said 5-4, 30-15, because I couldn't really hear what he was saying. That Aussie accent, honestly, on court is just like, I need someone to translate it. But apparently that's what he was saying to himself, and that point was like an insane sort of Nadal defensive point where he only just clawed it back. Kyrgios was on top of the point, missed a makeable forehand that maybe wouldn't have won him the point, but certainly was on the up in the point. He said he was playing that point over and over in his head. In fact, his exact quote was, "I played that point over and 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 over again." So a bit of a Kyrgios, classic Kyrgios response there. Yeah, that was maybe the difference. That point, he's quite right.
Point attitude in the tie break towards the end of that first set as well. It was just like, with all the chuntering to the crowd and all that, I was disappointed in the attitude. He just can't stay focused at times, can he?
He actually went off on one a reporter for saying he wasn't focused, but there's no way he was focused there. Yeah, exactly. It was like 6 love in the tiebreak, and then he one more swear and he gets a point penalty. It's like,
I feel sorry for Carlos Bernardes. I bet you when he saw he was doing that match, he's got Rafa that tried to get him off officiating his matches, and he's got Kyrgios that's been giving him hell. So I bet you thought this is like the nightmare matchup for Carlos Bernardes umpiring. I bet you, if you could offer him any match that he wouldn't want, I bet you that would be the one.
Yeah, definitely.
Two players that don't particularly like him or get on well with him.
Poor Carlos. Yeah. So the second set, I definitely think Kyrgios was the better player. Definitely deserved it. Maybe even more. 7-5 probably quite nice for Nadal, to be honest.
It felt like a 6-3 type of set, really.
Definitely, yeah. But that third set, again, and Nadal did it 3 times during the tournament, winning matches I think he probably could have lost. Like, he hung on at the start of the first set, saving a couple of break points. Did lift his second serve speed, to be fair, and okay, second serve speed doesn't necessarily make a difference to whether or not you're going to win a point, but it stops your opponent from just being able to go aggressive immediately from the start of the point. So, he deserves credit for that. I'm not saying it was the second serve particularly that made the difference, but had he not had that second serve speed, I don't know, maybe he would have got broken at the start of the set quite easily. He was missing a lot of first serves, down on first serve speed in general.
As well, the first serve just vanished at times. I mean, never seen that before, Rafa. Really, it was so erratic at times this tournament.
Let's not talk about injury too much, because I think people are taking the piss a little bit on Twitter with how much they're talking about his injury. But it could have been his foot injury, possibly, that maybe made that first serve go a little bit awry in the third set against Kyrgios. Didn't matter, didn't make a difference, because he was able to come up with the big plays and the bigger points.
Nadal, he's always going to be coming up with
course.
miracles, isn't he?
That's kind of how the match played out. I want to talk a little bit about the actual just like madness that went on during the match. So we had between the legs tweener, screaming at the umpire when people shouted out between his first and second serve, Kyrgios's, resulting in a double fault that cost him the third set. Constantly swearing, spitting on the court, telling Ben Stiller, this and that we just said, pointing out Nadal didn't apologise for a shank ball.
That was great. I loved that. And what was great was, I think he said it right. I think he sort of hoped that the crowd was sort of still there, so nobody heard it. But the crowd was silent at that moment, and he was like, clearly,
I know, it was clear as day.
You're not going to apologise for that.
It was clear as day, I know. Smashed a racket after the match so hard that it almost hit a ball boy.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do we just put up with it because it's just that exciting a match?
I don't mind racket smashes in general. That was, it was an aggressive racket smash, but there's no intent to hurt the ball boy there. I think the media sort of got so excited when that happened.
He did say that, yeah.
The question about it in the press conference was ludicrous, really. I mean, poor journalism at its finest.
Yeah, he did say it didn't hit him. It was an accident. It most definitely wasn't like Zverev.
Yeah,
it was a
complete
accident.
You see on Instagram, he actually messaged the fan and gave him a racket. So, see that?
Yeah, the racket smash, fine, but the spitting on the court, the constantly swearing.
Not great. No, it's not great. But
the going mental at Carlos Bernardes, he did what he could.
Carlos Bernardes was a bit of a punching bag, wasn't he?
He was, yeah.
I mean, that's ludicrous. That's the stuff you don't like about the racket smashes. I always say to people that play about racket smashes, if you're paying for a ticket, you'd rather see someone not care and lose 2-2 and be calm, or someone go mental, smash a few rackets, and winning a final set tiebreak. Winning at Carlos Bernardes, it happens every match as well. That's the thing.
The thing is, Gav, I'm just going to keep coming back to watch it.
I am, yeah, it was great for a great viewing spectacle, but I bet you Bernard, like, the umpires are probably raging that he's not getting more repercussions because some of the stuff he says to them are atrocious.
I know it is, yeah. One final thought that was happening during the match, just relaying what Mark Petrie said, basically, but very, very interesting stuff. Saying Kyrgios' break rate on hard courts is actually higher than it is on clay. My theory for that, and it's a little bit of what Petrie said, but I certainly think the theory is that Kyrgios prefers a faster surface for returning because he's more likely to guess than read a player's serve, if that makes sense. So he prefers to take on the serve early and guess where it's going rather than anticipate.
If you look at his backhand return in particular, it's quite a short sort of stab backswing. I think on the clay, it's more conducive to shot makers that have a bigger backswing that they can really rip through the ball. Whereas I think in faster surfaces, the pace, the court's doing a lot of the pace for you. You can hit just use short backswing and you can get the ball quite far deep into the court with a lot of pace on it. So you're able to use the pace far easier on hard courts and play. So I'd agree with that.
There's one other Aussie, Gav, who also has a higher break rate on hard courts than clay.
Mm-hmm.
Any idea?
One other, is it male, female?
Male.
Currently playing.
Yeah.
Good question you've managed to wrangle into this.
Yeah, technically. I just wondered if it just came to mind like that, because if you thought about him, you'd be like, oh, it's obviously him.
Oh, John Millman, is it?
No. It's Alex de Minaur.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I had to, he takes the return so early. Again, it's very similar to Kyrgios, or better probably, actually. And certainly has a far higher break rate than Kyrgios actually on hard courts. But yeah, still one of the only other players that has a higher break rate on hard courts because of the nature of the return, taking it early and taking time away from your opponent. Quite interesting. Rather than trying to neutralise the return, basically. Super interesting match. Loads of stuff going on. Maybe the match of the tournament. Shall we try and match it with this semi-final though?
Yeah, I think the semi-final takes it.
Nadal Alcaraz, yep. Absolutely.
I had real fears before the match that Alcaraz was just going to fall apart like he did in Madrid. The 1 and 2, give him too much respect, but like that shows you a lot that Alcaraz has got the mentality.
That was ages ago.
It was awkward, but like the birthday cake and everything now.
Yeah. Is that pre-match or post-match?
Like post-match, but like the guy's got battered 1 and 2, and he's like getting a birthday cake after it. And
it felt more like a sort of like Make-A-Wish Foundation kind of thing. Remember that? My hero giving me a cake. This was. I know this was very different. Yeah,
it was.
There was absolutely everything in this match. I think anybody who watched it was just raving about it. For everybody at the tennis club, anyway, was talking about it. First set was immense from Alcaraz. Started so well from the back of the court. I think he is as good, if not better, than anybody else. I mean, that's not a crazy thing to say, is it, Gav? It's just like that's a fact.
Like the guy, everything he touches turns to gold at times. You know what I mean?
The backhand's a joke. It's not much weaker than the forehand at all. Honestly, obviously match it up as well, the forehand and the backhand, with the insane touch and feel he has at the net, and you've got the potential for one of the greatest baseline players of all time.
I mean, unbelievable. He's only 18 as well.
The story of the match for me, and the biggest takeaway, is that second set, when it got so, stupidly windy, obviously, Alcaraz was the one that came out on top.
Yeah.
That surprised me. I think Nadal is the greatest windy player of all time.
Well, Murray's got to be up there.
Murray's good.
Got to be up there.
Yeah, but I remember Indian Wells 2009, and it was very windy then, and Nadal came out on top there. I don't know. It was
thinking US Open 2012, windy.
Yeah. I think if you actually matched them up, I think Nadal would probably win. But yeah, I get your argument. Murray has been able to beat a lot of players in his time in windy conditions, but yeah, for me, Nadal, just with all that spin, just so easily able to control the rallies and stay aggressive in crazy conditions. This was a bit of a exception to the rule of just like crazy conditions, in that it was like unplayable conditions.
It was dreadful conditions, but these guys are pros, and it just shows you, like, imagine club players playing in that, like the ball would be probably out the stadium some forehands or whatever.
I'd have retired, I'm afraid. So, I wouldn't have.
The nightmares now would be like getting a club player to hit an overhead, trying to hit an overhead. That would just be comedy.
I know, yeah. You saw some of them like literally like skipping off to the left by about a meter. It's absolutely crazy. So Nadal 11 forehand unforced errors in that second set to Alcaraz's 2 forehand unforced errors. Block returns from Alcaraz as well, just to start putting balls in the court. He recognised that's what you got to do and still hit the ball solidly, though. You can't just put it in the centre of the court.
It was really intelligent play, wasn't it? I mean, block again. Like, how many players do that? How many players just try the block return? Not many.
Against Nadal as well.
Against Rafa, you get it short, it's going to sit up, and you can just whack that forehand. But
exactly. Anyway, massive deal that Alcaraz was managed to come through that set victorious. And when we got to the third in the set and the wind had died down, even both players were hitting the ball as clean as anything. I feel like that almost like amped him up for the third set for a massive battle. And that third set was it was beautiful. It was so good.
It was just aggressive shot making.
The two of them from the back of the court. I feel like people don't bring that level out of Nadal that often. Just that insane defensive ability on a hard court.
Only Novak, maybe.
Yeah, Novak's even really Federer's not able to do it because he just gets pinned into that backhand exchange too often. Whereas Novak moves Nadal around the two of them move each other around like nobody else. It's absolutely crazy. So I thought Alcaraz was the more impressive of the two from the baseline in the final set.
Played to Rafa. I mean, he pulled it out in the big moments, didn't he? Just played the bigger points better. And
Nadal 2.0 making an appearance there. Massive serving when he needed it.
Yeah,
which isn't like him at all from 10 years ago, obviously, and massive net plays when he needed it as well.
Volley.
The reflex volleys were insane. They were so good. But that's what he has been able to do in the past few years, like Novak as well. Bigger serving, better net play.
When the going is gets tough and it's the big moments, they always 99% of the time bring out the best in themselves. Like, that's why they're where they are.
Or find a way to come forward. It's a lot of the time it's not a big, massive, flashy forehand winner or something. It's like it's bringing the pressure up front to the forecourt, which is it's very interested to see him use that against Alcaraz. I think maybe bad conditions kind of are conducive to that as well. As a non-professional player, I find it easier to play at the net when it's windy than at the baseline, but I still think that kind of holds true in professional play as well. Certainly, there's less chance of it just gusting about and you making a miss it than when you're at the baseline. So very smart play from him. And in the end, Nadal only won 5 return points in the third set.
Yeah.
So
shows you, doesn't it?
I know. Yeah. It's very exciting. Alcaraz, obviously, when that serve gets a little bit better, is going to be absolutely insane.
Yeah.
The return game, obviously, I'll give him the credit that's due first. A few stats on that. He has broken 51% of the time from love 15 up this year on his opponent's service games. Most would be happy with around 40%. That's a decent break rate from that scoreline. Fourth in terms of break rate over the last 52 weeks at 31.5%. Converted 20 of 23 break points at this tournament alone going into that match. Obviously, that changed with Nadal. He was able to make that a lot worse, but Jesus, I mean, that's amazing. That's some conversion rate. That's crazy.
Oh, it is. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I think about 87%. So as soon as that serve's on, we saw a little bit of it in the third set. He obviously got a big serve. I'm sure you maybe remember the next gen finals and how well he was serving there. And everybody just saying, well, this is him. He's complete already. It's not really how it worked out because I think he still finds it difficult to place the serve.
He does, it's serve placement, isn't it? That's what he needs to work on.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've seen Jannik Sinner already tidy that up. That's, I'm sure Alcaraz will be the same. He's definitely got the service pace that Sinner didn't have at that age. It's just a matter of placing it, and we saw it a few times in the third set, but not often enough.
Yeah, he needs to do it regularly if you're going to beat one of those guys.
I am being harsh, to be honest. As I say, he lost 5 service points in that final set, and one of them was a double fault.
Unbelievable how he wasn't able to get a win, but that just shows it's Nadal.
Such a good match, such a good testament to Rafa's brilliance that he won it. Full credit to him. Anybody that's sort of taking that win away from him, I mean, I don't think people are trying to discredit that win, but maybe they'll forget about it, obviously, after we've talked about this final, because it was a shame that he did lose it against Taylor Fritz.
That was just bizarre. I don't know if you're on social media like before the final, but everyone was reporting this Lindsay Davenport report on Tennis Channel that Fritz had stopped his practice early. And everyone was
Yeah.
saying, "Oh, Fritz might not play." Jim Courier was asked by Tommy Haas if he had his tennis gear, like in a text, because they thought he would pull out. And I think that was bizarre that everyone was saying, "Oh, Fritz, he won't be able to play," but then nobody focused on Nadal or how he was feeling physically.
Yeah.
I was guilty of that as well. I thought, "Oh dear, this could be a bloodbath if Fritz isn't really fit. This could be a bloodbath if he plays it." And
Yeah.
I think he played the way he came out the gate at the start of that match. It was almost like maybe he knew his ankle was running on fumes. Maybe he knew that he didn't have much in the tank and he just had to unload it. You know what I mean?
I would say that after the match, Fritz did say it was an absolute non-issue.
Yeah.
So he maybe he definitely was expecting it to be bad, because I think his
Mhm.
coaches said for him not to play, right?
Yeah, Paul Anacone told him not to play.
Yeah, but he said it was an absolute non-issue when he started playing.
Yeah,
So
bizarre, isn't it?
yeah, it is bizarre. I mean, it's the way tennis injuries work generally.
Mhm.
A lot of the time they can be really niggly, but on the day it's a completely different story. Nadal said after the match he felt pain even when he was trying to breathe. He said it's like having a needle inside him.
He looked awful in the first set in terms of feeling wise. Like the back of the court, he did not look good. Looked miserable.
Yeah. He said the thing that worries me now is what I have to do to recover and how long it's going to take. So, I mean, it was obviously an actual issue, but he still, as I say, he's played a lot of matches this year that he wasn't playing his best in and still managed to win them. So,
yeah, that'll take its toll on itself, won't it? I mean, the amount of times he's got to dig deep in the well, third sets and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Nadal was still able to adjust as well. Navratilova pointed out it was his pec muscle that was feeling a lot of the injury, and he was able to make his forehand technique a little bit more army than body oriented, basically. So, okay, conducive to a few more errors, but he was still able to find a way of staying aggressive against Fritz, which you obviously have to do against a player of that caliber. He still made it really close in that second set. I mean,
he did.
what?
I mean, he saved that match point, and I thought in the tiebreak
Yeah,
he had some unbelievable defensive shots. Like he
yeah,
missed
yeah.
a forehand inside out volley sort of thing, or
On
what's
the
it,
drive
drive volley?
volley,
Yeah,
yeah, 5-4, up 5-4.
yeah, drive volley. I think you see it in his face. He thought, "Damn, that was
That was it.
bad miss." Yeah,
Yeah,
but
and
still to sort it out.
5-all as well. He missed a forehand as well.
Mhm.
So I mean, I want to give credit to Taylor Fritz though, because I thought it would be a 500. Obviously, first, who wouldn't have thought it would be a 500 before a Masters
Yeah.
for Taylor Fritz? But a good result somewhere was definitely coming at some point. His movement was just too good. Forehand's an absolute killer at the
It's a
moment.
bomb.
Same with the serve. Yeah, and the backhand's just solid. He doesn't do much
Mm.
with it, but it's still a
Improve his
class shot.
transition game, so his net play needs to get better.
Yeah, definitely. If he wanted to excel at somewhere like Wimbledon, for example,
Mhm.
he's certainly got the rest of the game for it. So
He does.
yeah, it wouldn't need much more improvement in the net to make a good run there. So, but really, really good. I would say still, Nadal's serve definitely down about 6 miles an hour in his first serve, 7 miles an hour on
Mhm.
second serve. So definitely impacted his game somewhat, but still a decent-ish level for somebody
Yeah,
who's won 20 matches in a row. So.
absolutely.
Yeah, it was, still credit to Fritz, definitely. Shall we move on to the ladies?
Let's move on to the ladies. Yeah, why
Yes.
not?
Okay, yeah, I'd like to start with the defending champ
Mm-hmm.
and her level going into her semi-final. Paula Badosa was playing amazingly. She hadn't dropped a set. I'd like to talk first about her quarterfinal against Veronika Kudermetova. Obviously, Kudermetova was the one that beat Osaka earlier in the week, so she was playing very decent tennis.
Mm-hmm.
She had a love-free record against Kudermetova going into the match. Really interested to see Kudermetova still able to put up a really decent fight against her in a 3-2 loss. It wasn't as easy as a 3-2 win for Badosa, certainly. Scoreline not reflective at all, that old adage. Moment in the first set where it could have gone wrong for Badosa. Up 40-love, 5-3. She lost 4 points in a row. Kudermetova just going crazy on the forehand. Over 80 miles an hour on average on the forehand, so extremely aggressive, which is kind of what you got to do
Massive
against
firepower.
Badosa. Yeah, exactly. But just couldn't put it together enough times. Badosa is insanely consistent in slow conditions and can go aggressive when she needs to. Just the amount of topspin she puts on both wings is just insanely difficult to hit through. And Kudermetova, okay, she was able to trouble her with her massive first serve, but just no way of consistently winning points, basically. And she had that breakback point in the first set and netted her forehand. That was kind of the story of the match, basically. Just Badosa able to pin her at the baseline, and if she gave her anything short, mop up. So, I mean, she was playing amazingly going into her semi-final against Sakkari. But I would like to talk about Sakkari in general and why she was able to get through Badosa. A little bit about her racket, and just basically why she's playing so well recently. She hadn't won a match at Indian Wells for 4 years, incidentally. So I think she's hitting a bigger ball than she ever has hit. She used to be a bit more of a counter puncher than she is now.
Yeah,
a lot of that is to do with the racket. Certainly against Rybakina, we saw how heavy she's able to hit the ball, and against Badosa as well, obviously. This is all credit to Tennis Nerd for this one. I need to start watching more of their videos because really, really interesting stuff about racket technology. Yeah. Just going into a little bit of depth about the Wilson Ultra 100 V3, the racket that Sakkari uses. Extremely easy power on the racket, very, very head heavy, similar to a lot of the men's rackets on the tour. Heavy head relatively gives her super easy depth from the back of the court, which is why you see a lot of Sakkari's shots tend to be a lot more linear, a lot more down the middle of the court than placed, basically. Can make coming forward difficult, though, as the heavy head gives the power the player even a bit of a lack of stability on the volley, can feel a little bit wobbly, again, which is why we don't see so many touchy-feely shots from Sakkari. You can still have a heavy racket and play a good volley, but if it's a bit more head-heavy, it can be a little bit more difficult to keep control of it. So really interesting to see that racket translate to how Sakkari plays in general.
Yeah.
She played an amazing match against Rybakina, came back from 4-1 down in the first set to come through her. Rybakina, obviously, I keep saying it, touting her as the next world dominator, definitely. Might be a little while yet, but I mean, Sakkari played a fantastic match and all credit to her. Her against Badosa, Sakkari against Badosa. But Sakkari said before the match, or was it after the match? Sorry. Yeah, Sakkari said after the match, I was very concerned before the match because Paula is playing differently than the other girls. She has a very heavy game, obviously loves this tournament. She won it 6 months ago. Yeah, she basically, the point was that she's pointing out how heavy Badosa's game is. I think Sakkari's game at the moment is heavier, definitely, and in terms of topspin. She was the one that was sort of dictating with her forehand, which is very, very odd considering Badosa, has won the tournament in October, basically using her forehand to conduct baseline rallies with basically anybody on court. I think Sakkari's game is heavier, or is the heaviest in the game at the moment, to be honest. Because it can out-hit anybody, almost, obviously, bar one player that we're about to get onto. But those linear shots knock anybody off their feet at the back of the court, definitely. And, okay, the forehand, so for example, the forehand is definitely spinnier than Swiatek's, which I was very, very surprised to hear. That gives you a really good idea of how heavy a shot Sakkari hits from the back of the court, and it really, really zips off and pushes the player back. The backhand is completely different, a little bit flatter, able to use it cross court a lot of the time. Didn't use it a ton against Badosa. It was more about that forehand. It works against different players, certainly against like Swiatek, for example, which is why she's had quite a lot of success against Swiatek. But yeah, point is, I just wanted to give Sakkari credit for having basically the biggest game in women's tennis at the moment, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, definitely. The firepower she's got is ridiculous, isn't it? Like
heaviest game, actually, not biggest. I think Swiatek's got the biggest game at the moment. But
it depends how you define heavier and bigger. But powerful, probably the most powerful game.
Definitely, yeah. I'd like to move on to Swiatek.
Yep.
Did you get to see any of her versus Halep in the semi-final?
A wee bit. Didn't see it all because I was working, but I managed to catch a wee glimpse of it before I was off to work.
It was a good match. I enjoyed it. Did you see any of the set points?
I didn't know.
I'll go over what happened basically. Swiatek, and it does happen sometimes to her, even in some of the matches that she's won recently. Her forehand can sometimes go a little bit funky, and it's not the shot she'll dominate with all the time, basically, because she's now got that backhand and she's able to attack with it, flatten it out, compared to previous years on hard courts where she's really just used that as a way of staying in the point rather than getting up in the point. So super interested to see Swiatek actually use that shot to beat Halep at her own game, basically, defeating or winning the backhand cross court rallies against potentially the best backhand in the women's game. Ish, definitely. It's definitely up there anyway. She basically takes her opponent's strengths at the moment and she beats them.
Must be so frustrating to play against when something that usually works for you isn't working, and then you go to plan B, and it's like, well, don't usually have to do this. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what Swiatek's kind of forcing out of players. At the same time, that first set was incredibly close, and a lot of the rallies were kind of decided by those backhands. And Halep was coming out on top, and maybe about 50% of them. To be fair to Halep, she played a really, really high level in that first set. Swiatek, just to put this into context, when she played Halep in Australia, she only won 4 backhand return points throughout the match. Completely different dynamic here, able to bully Halep sometimes using that backhand cross court, which is just not her at all. So just as an example, those 2 set points, both won with backhand cross court shots. One of them was a backhand cross court forced error from Swiatek at 6-4, and then at 6-5 backhand cross court approach, which she did get away with a little bit, and Halep went absolutely mental when she did lose that point. But still, absolutely credit to her. And she's not afraid to go into the strength of her opponent, use her backhand and trust in that backhand to win a match against the best backhand of all time. Amazing. I love Swiatek at the moment. It's just super exciting stuff to watch.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, Halep did lose that set. She still played really well in the second set. She was a little bit injured, which is why from a breakup she lost 4 games in a row. We did see Swiatek's forehand go a little haywire, so she definitely had chances. If Halep had been fully fit, it definitely would have gone 3, I think. So Swiatek maybe got away with one a little bit in that second set, but obviously full credit to her. She's playing absolutely amazingly, super confident. She deserves to get a straight sets win every now and then against a player who's playing out of their skin.
Oh, absolutely. So,
yeah.
I agree.
Back to what I was saying about matching strengths, it seems to be Swiatek's way of defeating more opponents. I've seen that about Sakkari as well, using linear shots first to stop Sakkari using her own linear shots to get up in the point first. Will she ever beat Barty on a hard court with that in mind? So obviously, Barty relies on out-serving opponents.
Yeah.
Swiatek's still not serving amazingly.
I'm
obviously
not
winning all the matches.
I'm not convinced at the moment. No, I think she needs to make some improvements into that serve.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I was thinking if she did play Barty, it would have to be a forehand cross-court battle, maybe, I don't know.
Not a slice battle, that's for sure. So
no, definitely not, exactly. Doesn't want to get into that. I don't think she's that confident hitting low, certainly from a few of the points I've seen against Sakkari. The once in a blue moon that Sakkari did slice to Swiatek. But yeah, still, you're quite right. I don't think I could see her winning that at the moment. Obviously still playing amazing tennis, and we will keep praising her in the final. How much of that did you see against Sakkari?
Yeah, a lot of it. Yeah, it was great first set, and then it turned into, well, being polite, a wee bit of a mess. First set, like, Sakkari was a breakup, wasn't she? Like, looking to be a really close competitive match, and I was thinking, well, we could have another 3-hour epic like the Badosa Azarenka from last year or whatever. Get sort of, prepared for a long night, and then after that first set, just went completely downhill in level, didn't it?
6 breaks of serve in that opening set, actually.
Yeah, it wasn't the highest quality final. I think that's probably the best way of not high quality, really.
I think that's fair.
Unforced errors galore.
Yeah, I actually the way I saw it, almost the wind probably affected Sakkari more than Swiatek.
Yeah, probably ruined it a wee bit. Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of took away her ability to win a few free points on serve that she probably needed just to kind of edge her way over into the winning side of the match. So obviously Swiatek, not relying on her serve much at all to win 3 points, it kind of just made it baseline battles. And when Sakkari was downwind, she was really, really struggling to keep her backhand in the court, and made all the difference in that first set. As you say, unforced errors galore, but I think that's quite a lot to do with it. She couldn't keep the backhand from flying, basically, when she hit it too far over the height of the net. So it was tough. It was tough conditions again. Definitely not quite Alcaraz Nadal, but still, still tough stuff to deal with.
Windy.
So I kind of make this win. It almost looked like the kind of match Swiatek could have won a year ago, rather than now, if that makes sense. So she wasn't like super aggressive for her backhand or anything like that. It was kind of just forehand aggression and no serve, basically. And it was enough to beat Sakkari, obviously, because of the confidence she's got at the moment and just how comfortable she's feeling. But it was more like an old school, a 19-year-old Swiatek than a to 19-year-old Swiatek than a 20-year-old Swiatek. how hyped are you now? So actually, at 20 years old, third WTA 1000 title already. I mean,
And a slam winner as well.
yeah, and a slam winner. I would say I don't see her winning in Miami. Quick hard courts. You know, if she did win there, I'd be very
Generally,
surprised.
the only way is up, isn't it? I mean, the only way is up. Like,
yeah, definitely.
That's the message of the current team with Alcaraz and Swiatek. The only way is up.
Yeah, I could see Swiatek getting to maybe the semis like Australia and getting beaten by somebody like Daniel Collins again.
It depends on the draw and what happens in a tournament, but certainly could be. Should have a decent run there. Will she win it? It's difficult, isn't it? Going back to back, sunshine double. Not many players have done it, so.
Yeah, exactly. And then Madrid as well, being the next Masters, I don't see her winning that as well. Just with how the altitude is so high, she's not the best.
Madrid, the only way is up. The only way is up from about May onwards, really.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, you're quite right. I've just been realistic. I think those two. I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see Swiatek winning again for a little while, just given the next few tournaments don't suit her game too much. But as soon as it comes Rome, French Open time, yeah, everybody's fucked, basically. So yeah, it's super interesting or super exciting. I'm a very big fan of Iga Swiatek. So obviously now world number 2, people will not be surprised to hear it's been a while coming. So not quite at the point of challenging Barty for the number 1 spot, but good happen. Right, anything else to talk about, Gav? Is that us?
I think that's us.
Yeah. My own pick, Miami has started. The qualifying matches have started. Even there's not really much to talk about there, though. Obviously, this has been a fairly long episode. Anyway, yeah, we'll probably just making sure everybody knows what we'll do next time. We'll probably do a Miami sort of recap thing.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Same thing as India and Wales, like just covering the first few rounds if something really interesting happens.
Never know. Big man probably winning love or something like that.
Oh, yeah, that's a good prediction.
That's exactly what's going to happen anyway, so that's not really surprising.
It's not that bold. It's not a bold prediction. Yeah. Thank you very much for listening this far through, guys. If you want to catch any of Gav's work, he might be doing predictions on Miami.
Should be doing some for Miami. I've sort of gone off the radar a wee bit, but I'm back on the radar now, so to speak. So.
Back on the radar indeed, yes. You can catch my work at jackedward.substack.com or on the line tennis.uk, new website. Thank you very much for listening this far through, guys. This has been the Online Tennis Podcast. Cheers, we'll catch you next time.
Cheers, thank you.